Good morning, it's Shooter. Hey, we're going to go over the swing trade notes. It's December 13th, 2021. Jump over to our disclosures. Of course, prior success does not guarantee future performance. So I would suggest that you print this and review it. Going to jump to the S&P first. After Friday's scan, you don't look like a bull trap to me. Maybe 485, 488. In this range up on the high side. However, we could still fade right here. I don't think that's the case. I think this came off pretty decent, took out a lot of that energy, and we had this come off, took out some prior energy there as well. RSI is not, euphoric to the upside, but then again, it's not waning either. So, I'm looking at this as our confirmed high, and this is our divergent high. So maybe a 3 over here, so could push out until January. But I would think that we get up and go and break out. I think we do have a Santa rally, so that's sort of my thinking. Then, when this comes off, we're now looking late January, February, based on the way the counts are out here, even though we have a 3 here, the 90-minute shows some tighter time frames. Let me jump down to the daily so you can take a look at that real quick. So this is sort of our look. We have this resistance line that we broke above, back tested it pretty solid, then we gapped below it, came down, tested our prior range low at the 448.92. So I think that holds. So our range high, I've pushed a little bit higher because of this 488.91 count on the 90-minute, but we're still heading for that golden box at 474 that's been around. And this is the upper count that we have. So I think it's going to be one of these two that we're going to get an outcome with. Let's jump to the next. Similar, but a little different view in the NASDAQ. I think we have a potential of breaking out here. We could get a good push. I'm not thinking we get up to the 1618. The count doesn't suggest that we do. But if we get up and out of this box above that range high, 417.98, that could continue very easily. On top of that, we're looking for a lower dollar. So, that would give multinationals a little bit of a push. But it still smells like a bear trap to me, both the S&P and the NASDAQ. It's got that look where, we didn't have that nice flush, that you get at times. I would classify this as a nice flush because it was quick. This is not a nice flush. It's sort of a fade here, and, we started like a nice flush was going to occur, and now we're wanning a little bit. So that might just be gaining the momentum to go into year end. Let's look at the daily for you real quick, just so you get a visual. So I think this breakout line holds is my thought. So I think that A is our floor. However, we could get this ABC and then put in that a 370.39, back, which would fill that 372 count that didn't get filled on this candle, and then keep going. I don't think that any of that would negate the upside, and it could come all the way down to the 200-day and then bounce, but I don't think we'll get that much of a sell-off. Key thing that I'm looking for here is I want to watch that 401.20. A breakout above that 401.20, you probably can chase it for, 8, 10, 15 bucks there. That's sort of my thinking. I think it should be pretty safe once it gets back above that 401. Let's jump over to the Dow. The Dow Jones looks really constructive here. I don't like, the only thing I don't like is that it's broadening, because that sort of complicates your entries and your exits. And you can get this a flush like occurs. So if it's going to continue broadening, we'll put in that 371 and it'll get broader down here and then keep going. Question is, is that 337.79 going to get tagged, or are we going to go down into the golden box closer to 315 or even 300 maybe? That's still unknown, but either case, we do get any back test, we should get a bounce to all-time highs. And I'm thinking somewhere between 364 and a final print around 378. Now, typically how you get these 5 waves is you have an elongated 3 and not an elongated 1 like you have here. So partially this could be a shallow 5 here. So, that would suggest this lower count around 364 is where my thinking, so it sort of could look like it's going to roll over. And then the question from there really is, are we going to put in a 61.8 here, or are we going to go down to the second golden box? I don't really know at this point. It's hard to tell. I always keep an eye out for reversion to the mean. So, when we get this 364 in, I always take 1% of my gains to the upside when I have a retrace, and I put a little piece on the risk to the downside just in case. So I would put, maybe, a couple hundred contracts here at 321 and, put a couple hundred contracts at 220 and a couple contracts, maybe 50, 75 contracts down there at 180, just in case we do get that flush. So I have a position, I have some exposure for it. And, usually it works out. I don't do a lot of counter trend gambling, as I would call that, but, this count looks good to make a decent buck on. It's worth taking a shot for a little piece to the downside, because when we do come off, and now this might not be till July, it's going to be a nice retrace when we come off. It will be this first golden box or the second one. For the time being, though, I think that 337 holds. That's just my 2 cents. I've actually put a next entry window long. And again, as we started discussing the week before last about scaling into your positions, a lot of that is because we're seeing a lot of the counts morph. In other words, they're extending, doing a double zigzag versus a zigzag, which is just an ABC corrective leg twice. And sometimes it will do a triple zigzag, which going to the second golden box, usually down here, would be a triple zigzag. And then I think our top should come in around 371, and then we fade over towards that 364 is how I'm looking at this. So our range high is 387. I don't think we get up there right away. I think we come over, do this fade, back test that 321. I think that's where we'll come in. I think that's fairly accurate, give or take, 20, 25 bucks in either direction. And then we push towards all-time highs next year. So we would break the range low at some point, but I think that does come next year. Let's jump over to IW. Now, when I drew up this chart, on Sunday, it was looking to me like we had a chance for a bounce, maybe off of this 212.74. Looks like that's manifesting this morning. And, so I think maybe 242 is about the top here, right around up here. This little range a little above the golden box. However, we could push, all the way to this 267.55. Wouldn't be out of the question with how this tape looks. We spent a lot of time grinding around here and it really didn't do much. And we got off this really well here. That was a nice flush in the count. And, as far as the wicks, we went up and back tested trend support, trend resistance. And we had, put it in here and back tested it and wicked right up here. And then we came off fairly quickly. Usually those have a response with a decent bounce. So even though a lot of our confluence comes in around that 242, there's a good possibility this is going to push up to 267. So, I would look at, really where my stop is, 212.71, selling that 212 probably would be a good way to do that. However, on your next entry, like everything, we're coaching scale in at this point because so many of the counts are morphing. So if this count did morph one more level down and this ends up being a full ABC here, we put in the B doesn't come in here, it's a shallow B, then our next level would be down around 190 in this range, which I don't have on this chart because I don't see it as an outcome because of this, but it could be a possibility. And then if we go to a triple zigzag, it would be down around 155, 150 range. But here again, in IWM, I don't see that as an outcome right at the moment, but obviously I reserve the right to change my mind. Let's take a look at Treasury. So we're just digesting this this wedge here, we're going to continue to fill this out. I mean, we'll come in and put this B in at some point and come in and back test this trend support. It was rejected really hard on the Omicron news. We were up there and we were pushing. It looked like it was going to actually continue to break out, pushed up above there. And it just, that next week just got rejected. And yet this morning we're coming back with a vengeance. Now, whether that continues or not is yet to be seen, but I would think that 162 gets filled. I'll get interested in maybe putting a piece back on. We break out above the prior breakout. I'm not going to touch it until it gets there, just because it's really just chop. It's very difficult to lean in any direction here just because of the way the wedge looks. It could be a more aggressive downtrend. If we look at this, so we could fade at any point here. The ABC gives us 161.93 versus the 162.81 on the count. So this would be an alt count that I would, consider as an outcome possibly, but we would have a little confluence up towards 161. So it's $10 higher. So, I mean, depending on your risk threshold, it's not a bad trade, to put something in there and, maybe look for February's. But I would say it's tight. If I was going to put something on here, I'd put on at the 161.8, because that's where we'll get rejected if we do. It would be that 155.16 would end up being our high, and then we break down. But right now it is a 5 wave, completing around 162.81. I wanted to address Ford really quick. We're actually coming off, this now appears like it is an overshoot of this trend resistance. And, that really would open up once we get below this candle, this December 5, 19, the 1861 low, that would open up that 1555 or our alt count, which I, just drew a 5 wave up, which would be measured from this is our start. This is our first wave at the peak there, and looking at that as an overshoot. All right, that would give us a 1524 count on Ford. But this morning it does look like, we have posted in the room that it looks like it is an overshoot at this point. So let's jump over and take a look at Apple. Now I'm jumping right to the 90-minute on Apple, just, looking at the grind here. We overshot this morning. Came in at printed a 182.06. I believe that's just shy of a $3 trillion entity. So let's see if we can get a nice live look at this on how we could trade this, because I think it does get it's coiling for a nice push. So my thinking would be that we now look at maybe a 186.52 at some point. Even though we're undershooting that. Just trying to get a view while I'm going to run a new one on the daily. Doing sort of a live look at how I come up with my views. And we are confirming here on this high. Now, what that tells me right off is that we're looking for at least one more high. Now, here on my look, this is a 3 drive count, which we have overshot, which quite often turns into, going to throw up a harmonic pattern here. I just want to see what it looks like. See what it's going to, if it's going to give me anything on the daily, on the weekly. It might not return anything on the count. We're live here, so that's, let me come down to the 4 hour and see if it gives me anything. Really? Try it one more time. Maybe I didn't click the button the right way. No, we do not have a harmonic pattern on the account. So I would say that maybe, and because I really don't have an angle here for an accelerated push, I don't think we get down there, but that would probably be the optimum place to get an entry, which really Apple has not given us too many great opportunities outside of this back test and here in this. It's been kind of choppy in both directions. So my thinking is maybe the 50-day, which would put us somewhere around 175 range, I would think. If you get a 175, we're at 177.91. And I'm just going to go way down here on time because I want to get a scan on this real quick, see if this is. So now I have a harmonic. So that's right in the range of 176, which we basically tagged, to the 175.10 range is where that would measure. That's one of the wonderful things about this app, is it's live. So when we come down and we scrunch the numbers, we can see it. Takes a little time to learn it, but it's there. So I'm going to close this harmonic off so we don't have to look at that there. Whereas the C is going to come in. So I would say my next entry long to add a position in Apple, and I like the weekly still this week. So I would even look here because we gave us a little more room. I actually like this as a next entry long live here. 177, 15, 25, and are we in on that candle? 177.11. So we put it in. I would add some 180 Friday calls here, right off of live here on today's session. So I'm going to throw this in the room as we speak on a 90-minute alert. And that was my look for the week. I wanted to stay light because of the holiday around the corner. Until next time, folks.